wrap up. So in the month of October, I read 9 books, or really 8 3/4. I'll get into that in a minute, which is pretty good going. I'm actually surprised I read so much this month, considering it was a little bit of a chaotic month. The month was entirely spent reading fantasy and romance, which are definitely my comfort zones, and it was just a difficult month for me personally. So to spend the entire month reading my comfort genres was honestly so nice. I have to be honest, I am genuinely disappointed that I didn't have more of a mystery thriller October. I had every intention of that being the case, and I had so many good mystery thriller books that were on my list that I was hoping that I was going to get to. But in the end, I was just not in the mood to feel unsettled or scared or uncomfortable. I just wanted to feel good and to believe in happy endings and hope and all those things for the month. But I am still very much hoping that I am going to have a much more heavy mystery thriller winter, and there's still plenty of time to get to those types of books and just to expand my genre base a bit further. Anyway, for now, let's talk about all the books I read in October. I felt like I did vlog reading quite a few of these, so I'm going to try not to prattle on too much today and be a little bit more efficient with my descriptions of each of these books, but you know me, so let's see how we go. So we started off the month of October with the second book in the Shepherd King duology, Two Twisted Crowns. I definitely showed you, if you saw the vlog, with my reaction to the ending of the first book and beginning this book. It was so fantastic. I thought this was the perfect way to end a duology, and for me personally, I know there will be conflicting opinions, but in this case, in this duology, I know it's so rare, but the second book was even better than the first. We got an additional point of view in this book, and I think the point of view that was added was so perfect. I loved the extra character that was added in. I loved the additional romance plot that we got in this second book. And I think the whole duology was wrapped up so nicely. If you are looking for a slightly spooky, gothic, dark, magical duology to read over these cozy winter months, I could not recommend the first book, which is One Dark Window, and the second book, Two Twisted Crowns, more highly. The absolute perfect winter read, and actually such a nice one for like Christmassy festive time as well, when you're snuggled up by a fire. Absolutely perfect. I would give this second book, I think, 4.5 stars. I loved it, and it was the first book of the month. It was a month ago that I read it now, and I still remember it and think about it. So 4.5 stars, maybe even 5 stars. Loved it. Next, I read Caught Up, which is book 3 in the Windy City series. I actually read this book on my Kindle. I still cannot find a physical copy of it anywhere. This is the first book in the series that isn't about hockey. This is actually about baseball. This story is a single dad romance. Kai is the main character. I absolutely loved the relationship between Kai and Miller. There is just something about single dad romances that hit for me every time. I love the creation of a family. I love the added dynamic and element of love that having a child in the picture brings to a story. And I just love the elements of family-based romances that portray that, of course, the child and children are the most special thing in the parents' lives, but they can still have this entire side of themselves and this entire plot that exists outside of their children. Like, they can still be sexy and fall in love and build relationships that are above and beyond the relationships they have with their child. They can still have their own careers, and I just love seeing such a healthy depiction of what it can be like to build a family and still be really in love and have fun, and the found family and the friendships. Anyway, I absolutely love this one. Still so shook that I was doubtful about this series when I started reading Mile High, because I am so in love with all of these characters now. And I think this one was my favourite one of the series, and I feel like maybe I'd give it 5 stars, maybe 4.5. I think when I finished it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's 5 stars. Like, that was amazing. I loved it so much. But then recently I've been reading high fantasy, and I think it then feels really hard to give a contemporary romance 5 stars when your head is like stuck in high fantasy, because like the stakes are so much higher, there's so much more going on, and then it feels like the two just don't compare. But when I finished this book, I absolutely thought it was a 5 star. And if you're looking for just a great romance that has all of that like heartache but happy ending and banter and spice, and I just feel like this book had everything in it. So absolutely loved Caught Up. I then went straight on to reading Play Along, which is Isaiah's story, and oh my gosh, I also loved this one. It is so hard for me to choose between this one and Caught Up, between which one I liked more. The way that Isaiah is so down bad for Kennedy. If you want a book that is he falls first, he falls harder, this is it. His obsession with her and his devotion to her was just such a vibe and so fun. And Isaiah himself, if you love that like cheeky chappy kind of vibe, their banter was fantastic. She had a much more like dry, sarcastic thing going on with her, whereas he was just like golden retriever energy through and through. But I feel like with all of these books, there's a thread of like deeper emotion that goes through every single one of the books in the Windy City series. So getting to see that flip side of the golden retriever and some of the more vulnerable sides of him was so lovely to see. If we're talking tropes, it's Marriage of Convenience. Another such a good one. And I'm so sad to know we only have one more book of this series left, which hasn't come out yet. But oh my goodness, the final book is going to be Rio's story, and wow, does that man deserve a good love story. He's like the last single one left in the group, and for ages he has deserved to find his special someone. So I'm so excited to read Rio's story. I have no idea when it's coming out, but Liz Tomforde so far just has not missed, does not miss, and I'm so excited to read that book. But yeah, play along. I'll probably give 4.25, maybe 4.5. Again, like when I'm reading it, I have no notes. I just have the best time. So another really, really good sports romance. This is also baseball if you're looking for another one of these to add to your TBR. Sticking with the romance theme, I then read Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. You guys know, if you've watched some of my other reading vlogs, how much I love Elsie Silver and how much I love a small town cowboy romance. This is not really a cowboy romance at all, but it is small town and it is single dad. Every single one of the books in the Rose Hill series are single dad romances. It had all of the component parts of Elsie Silver's books that I love. So if you also love the Chestnut Spring series, if you liked the Gold Rush Ranch series, if you liked Wild Love, you will also love this book. West is such a good male main character. The children are so funny, especially the daughter Emmy had me absolutely cackling. There's a sassy parrot, and it's a very brief synopsis. It's about Skylar Stone, who is a extremely famous pop star. She was kind of giving me like Taylor Swift vibes, who was kind of imagining it being based on, but she's a very famous pop star. Her life has started to fall apart. She's got a bad relationship with her parents, a bad relationship with her manager. She's fallen out of love with performing, and so she ends up in Rose Hill to record a solo album or to record some music away from the rest of the world and away from her agent and her family, with Ford Grant, who the first book, Wild Love, is about, who is Willa's brother from Chestnut Springs. And she meets West, who is a single dad there, and because it is a romance, one thing leads to another. It actually wasn't my favourite of Elsie Silver's. I don't entirely know why. This feels criminal to say, but I think having read the Liz Tomforde books, maybe they were just hitting a little bit harder for me. And maybe the stakes just weren't high enough in this, or I don't know, but something about it just didn't hit so hard. So I'd probably give this 4 stars, but it was still really, really good. And I had a great time, and I'll never not read an Elsie Silver book whenever she writes one. I'm so sorry about how loud that drilling is. It's so annoying. We're just gonna have to persist because our neighbours are just constantly drilling and doing building work. So we're just gonna have to push through, but I'm so sorry if it's really annoying. After Wild Eyes, I then read my very first Kennedy Ryan book. Oh good, now I have a leaf blower as well as a drill. I get no peace. So after Wild Eyes, I read my first Kennedy Ryan book, Long Shot. You guys know how much I really struggle showing you this cover because I can't with the male model on the front. So we'll just spin the Kindle around to my cute October stickers, which I'm so sad we're gonna have to say goodbye to soon. Anyway, Long Shot. This book took me by surprise so much. I have no idea if the rest of Kennedy Ryan's books are that heavy, but it was a sports romance. It was professional basketball. I cannot express how heavily there are such extreme trigger warnings for this book. This was the most graphic description of domestic abuse and sexual assault that I have ever read, and it's not to be taken lightly. It was not like any of the other romance books I've read before. There were big jumps through time, so we were witnessing the woman in this book experiencing domestic abuse and sexual assault over a very long period of time, which was really hard to read. But the love story really was beautiful. I mean, it was completely a romance, but somehow it felt bigger than that. I'm sure there must be trigger warnings at the beginning. I didn't see them on the Kindle version that I've got for some weird reason. But at the back, there are a lot of resources if you do feel like you need help, and there's some helplines there that you can call if you're affected by anything in the book, or if you're experiencing any of the terrible things that are described in this book and you want help. There are links and resources in the back. But wow, like I am so keen to read more Kennedy Ryan. I definitely needed a break after the end of that one. I was not ready to read another straight away, just in case it did have such heavy themes. But a wonderful story, well worth a read, and it's 4 stars from me. Then I read probably my favourite book of the month. In fact, I think I can pretty confidently say definitely my favourite book of the month, which is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young. I can't tell you what this book did to me. This is a romance between Bo and Win, both who suffer with a physical disability, and it is a pregnancy trope book. If you saw the vlog where I read out the author's note, it's got a truly, truly beautiful author's note at the beginning, which gives you such a lovely overview of what you can expect from the book. It's just a lovely love story. I know there are so many reviews and so many people's opinions that this book is really boring and nothing happens, and I totally get that it might not be for everybody if you do want more plot in your book, but for me it's just a cozy autumnal book filled with joy. I loved their banter. It was witty and funny. The descriptions of what each of them want their love to look like, and the intricacies of 2 people getting to know each other and fall in love and do that again and again every day and every month and over years. For me, it was beautiful and lovely, and I think it's probably one of my favourite books I've ever read. I'm definitely going to read it again. And it is crazy to me that really it's just like a little rom-com. There's not loads more to it than that, but for some reason this one just hit so deep for me. I loved it. It was just pure sunlight in a book. They meet at a Halloween party, so it's perfect for this time of year. If you want a cozy book that will make you feel lovely, pick up this one, Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young. And then I picked up about 4 books and put them all back down again. And I don't know what was wrong with me. I think Out on a Limb put me in a bit of a slump, or I found it very difficult to go from Out on a Limb onto any other book. I picked up my first A.E. Valdez. Don't you think this cover is so stunning? I definitely want to get the physical copybook of this once I read it. But I downloaded A.E. Valdez, All I've Wanted, All I've Needed. I read about 5% of this and put it down. I picked up the Mindfuck series by St. Abbey, which I picked up and put down. I started reading Assistant to the Villain, which I read about 5% off and then put down. And as you already know, in the month I tried reading Ninth House, which I started reading and put down. I don't know what was wrong with me. I just couldn't get sucked into anything. And all of those books, I have every intention of going back to. Like, none of those in my world are a DNF at all. I just was starting to read and I was just not feeling it. So I decided I needed an audiobook that I could just have on whilst I was doing things and whilst I was getting on with my life, and I wanted something that was properly gripping. I don't know if there's like a new resurgence or if my algorithm is just like doing things at the moment, but I feel like I'm seeing more and more ACOTAR and Throne of Glass stuff cropping up again all over Instagram and TikTok, and that was making me miss it so much, and I was like, I want that feeling again. I want to get sucked into a fantasy world and have it ruin my life, just like those books did. And so very spontaneously, I tried Spark of the Everflame. I no longer know why I picked it or how I picked it, because I mentioned in a vlog that I thought a Clockwork Reader had recommended it. She actually hadn't. So I truly don't know where I even got the book from. However, if you liked ACOTAR, if you liked Throne of Glass, you have to read Spart of the Everflame. It is the closest book series that I have ever read that comes anywhere close. I've read so many fantastic books since ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, but none have been like the same, you know, none have been the same. If you liked Rhysand, if you liked Cassian, if you liked Rowan, I am not joking when I say Luther is a perfect combination of the 3 of those men squished together. There are currently 3 books out of the Kindred Cursed saga: Spark of the Everflame, Glow of the Everflame, and Heat of the Everflame. I would give Spark of the Everflame somewhere around the 4-star mark. It took a minute to get going. I do find Diem, who is the main female character, to be quite annoying. She gets less annoying as the series goes on, but I still wish there were more points of view from the other characters, because it's a single point of view story and it's just hers, and she is the most annoying character in the book. But the found family is fantastic. I love the magic. I love the magic systems. We've got a Gryvern, which is a cross between a Wyvern and a Griffin. So it's basically like a fluffy, cuddly dragon is the best way to describe Sarai. So if you like the dragon element of Fourth Wing, there's also a little bit of that in there. And the reason why I say in October I've read 3/4 of a book, I read 8 books and 3/4 instead of 9 full books, is because for Heat of the Everflame, which is the 3rd book in the series, I've decided to stop after part 2. The final book that is out at the moment is split into 3 parts, And everything I read online from people that have already read the series say that the ending of Heat of the Everflame is like the wildest cliffhanger of a book ever, and everyone is completely shook. And I'm so invested in the series now, I literally can't do it to myself. It was so torturous to stop, but I've decided to stop at the end of part 2, and I then think that part 3 will be a perfect way to like recap me on what's going on before I move on into Burn whenever that gets released. There is no release date yet for when Burn is going to be available, so that is a word of warning to you that you can either choose to embark on the series now or wait till the 4th one comes out and then burn them all. Equally, they are very chunky books, extremely long, like Kingdom of Ash, Throne of Glass level long. So if you don't read lots of books a month and you prefer to read a select few books a year, then maybe start now, because it's going to take a minute to get through all of that. I also did really enjoy the audiobook, but it wasn't a duet audiobook, which I think is a shame. I think if I'd been in the mood to read the physical copies, I think I would have preferred that, only because I do find it a little bit annoying in audiobooks when the female voice actor like puts on the male voice. It just like ruins the romance vibes a little bit. But there's so much more to those books than just the romance that it really didn't bother me, and it fully got me like back into the swing of reading again, listening to all of those. And like I said, I'm an audiobook convert. I started the year not able to listen to a single audiobook, and I struggled so hard with having other people's voices in my head. And now I'm just loving it, and I'm switching between Kindle, physical copy and audiobooks, and oh, I love the combo. And finishing part 2 of Heat of the Everflame was the end of my October reads. We are now into November, and my list of books that I want to read in November are very October coded. They're all the books that I wish I read in October but I hadn't quite got to yet. We're starting off with a very spooky gothic witches and demons, Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco, and it's so good so far. I'm actually vlogging my experience of reading it, so you'll see that vlog when it's ready to come out. I'm gonna be so sad to say goodbye to my autumnal spooky season Kindle stickers, because I think they're all so cute. They have moved around a little bit. They didn't stay quite as well put as my last load of Kindle stickers, but I'm gonna leave them in here for now until we switch them over to the festive ones, which I need to start buying. That is a wrap on October. It wasn't quite the month I had planned book-wise, but it actually turned out to be a really good one. If you have also been reading this month, let me know what your favourite book of the month was. If you've got any good book recommendations for me, books that you think that I would really enjoy, then I'm trying to make a bit of a list of all the books that I really want to get read before the end of the year. I'm really trying to hold myself back from all of the festive bookish content. We will be doing some version of Bookmas this year, which I'm so pumped about, but I'm trying to hold off until at least like the middle of November, until we really go hard on the Christmassy bookish content. Right now I'm still planning it all out. Let me know if there's anything in particular you want to see, but that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely week, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Bye guys!